The desert stretched farther than the eye could see. Golden sand rolled like waves beneath the burning sun. Each step sank a little deeper into the hot ground, and the wind carried a constant whisper, as if the desert itself was guarding secrets. Myra walked at the front of the team with her eyes fixed on the horizon. She had dreamed of this place since her childhood. Old stories told of a city hidden beneath the sands, a city older than any known civilization. Many had searched for it and failed. Yet something inside her whispered that she would not fail. The team behind her carried heavy packs filled with supplies. There was Karim, a calm man with strong arms who handled the digging equipment. Beside him walked Lian, the youngest of the group, with a notebook always in his hand. He loved to write down every detail, even the way the sand shifted under their boots. Tomasz followed with careful steps, always checking the compass and the old maps that Myra had collected over the years. They were a small group, but each one shared the same hope. The sun beat down without mercy, and the air shimmered like fire. Yet no one complained. The desert had a strange pull, as though it wanted to test their determination. The silence around them felt endless, broken only by the crunch of their footsteps. Lian finally asked, "Myra, do you really believe the city is here, under all this sand?" Myra slowed her pace and looked back. Her dark eyes held a quiet fire. "I do not just believe," she answered. "I know. These sands hide more than just stone. They hide the truth about where we come from and why we are here." Her words brought a fresh spark of energy to the team. They pressed on until the sun began to sink, painting the desert sky with shades of red and gold. At last, Myra raised her hand for them to stop. They set up camp, placing metal stakes into the ground and stretching fabric into a low shelter. A small fire was lit, and the team gathered around it as the night grew cold. The desert changed when darkness came. The heat of the day gave way to a chill that crept through their clothes. Above them, the stars glittered brighter than anywhere else. The silence felt heavier, as if the night itself was watching. Karim passed around water flasks while Tomasz spread out the maps. He pointed at a circle marked with faded ink. "This is where we stand now," Tomasz said. "If the stories are true, the entrance should be nearby. But no one has ever found it." Myra studied the map and then the stars above. Her voice was steady. "That is because they searched for ruins like the ones on Earth. But this city was built by hands and minds different from ours. It will not reveal itself to those who look in the wrong way." Lian leaned forward, eager. "What makes you so sure it is not just a myth?" Myra smiled faintly. "Because myths do not echo across planets. This city appears in old records not only on Earth but in fragments from other worlds. Different cultures speak of a city swallowed by sand and guarded by time. They could not have shared these stories unless they came from the same source." The firelight flickered across their faces. No one argued. Deep inside, they all felt the same pull, the same sense that something waited for them under the endless desert. That night, Myra could not sleep. She lay awake staring at the stars, her mind filled with questions. Why had she always felt drawn to this place? Why did the carvings on the old tablets match patterns she had seen on worlds far from Earth? The desert was silent, yet her heart told her that something beneath the sands was listening. When dawn came, the team packed their camp quickly and continued their march. Hours passed under the cruel sun until Tomasz stopped suddenly. He knelt down and brushed away a thin layer of sand. His eyes widened. "Myra," he called. "Look here." The others gathered around. Under the sand lay a block of stone, smooth and carved with lines that formed a perfect circle. It was not the shape of wind or erosion. It was the work of hands. Myra's breath caught in her throat. "This is it," she whispered. "The beginning." Excitement rushed through the group. Kareem cleared more sand, revealing more of the stone surface. The circle widened until it became clear that they were standing on something vast, something buried for ages. The desert wind rose as if in protest, sweeping sand across the stone. But Myra stood firm, her heart pounding. The city was real. It was here, waiting to be uncovered. The desert had tested them, but at last, it had revealed a secret. And this was only the beginning of their journey. The morning sun burned bright as Myra and her team cleared more of the stone surface. Sand poured away with every strike of Kareem's shovel. Slowly, the perfect circle grew larger, and the group began to see patterns carved into the stone. They were not random lines. They were symbols. Lian knelt close and brushed the surface gently with his fingers. "These are not like any writing I have seen," he said. "Yet they look ordered, like they mean something." Tomasz leaned over with his notebook. "It could be a form of language lost to time. Look at the way the lines repeat. They follow a rhythm." Myra placed her palm on the stone. It was cool beneath her touch, even though the sun blazed above. Her heart beat faster. "This is no simple stone. It is a gate," she said. The others stared at her, unsure. Kareem raised a brow. "A gate? Buried here under all this sand?" "Yes," Myra said with quiet certainty. "The stories spoke of an entrance. This is it." They worked for hours, shoveling and sweeping away the endless sand. The wind often blew it back, as if the desert wanted to hide the secret again. But the team did not stop. By midday, the circle had revealed its full shape. At the center was a raised stone with a single hand-shaped mark carved into it. The team gathered around. Lian spoke first, his voice filled with awe. "It looks like it is waiting for someone." Myra stepped forward. Her chest tightened as she looked at the mark. It was shaped like a human hand. She reached out, hesitated for a moment, and then placed her palm against it. At once, the stone trembled. The carvings around the circle glowed faintly, pulsing with light as if something inside had awakened after centuries of silence. The sand around the circle shifted and slid away, revealing steps that led downward into darkness. The team gasped. Kareem whispered, "It opens." A rush of cool air flowed from the stairs, carrying with it the scent of dust and age. The desert, hot and merciless above, now seemed far away. The entrance waited below, dark and inviting. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Myra lifted her lantern. "We came here to find the city. This is our path. We go together." The others nodded, and one by one they followed her down the steps. The air grew cooler as they descended. The walls were smooth stone, covered with carvings that shone faintly in the lantern light. Strange shapes curled across the surface, twisting like vines and stars. At the bottom of the stairs, they entered a wide chamber. The floor was made of black stone polished like glass. In the center stood a pillar of crystal, taller than a person, glowing with a soft blue light. Lian's eyes widened. "This is not just a ruin. It still lives." Myra approached the crystal slowly. It pulsed in rhythm with her steps, as though sensing her presence. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. Whoever had built this place had planned for someone to return. Tomasz circled the chamber, running his hand along the carvings. "These symbols repeat again," he said. "Always around the crystal. It must be the heart of the city. Karim stood guard at the stairs, his eyes sharp. If this city was hidden for so long, why does it feel like it was waiting for us? Myra answered without turning her gaze from the glowing pillar. Because it was. The words hung heavy in the chamber. No one argued. The strange energy in the air made their skin prickle. Suddenly, the crystal brightened. A beam of light shot upward, striking the ceiling. Lines of blue light spread across the stone above, forming patterns like maps. Stars appeared, shining in exact shapes and clusters. It was as if the desert chamber had turned into the night sky. Leanne gasped. It is a map of the stars. But not the stars we know. These are systems far from Earth. The team stood in silence, staring at the glowing sky above them. The chamber was no simple tomb. It was a guide. Myra's voice was low but firm. This city was not lost. It was hidden. And it was hidden for us. Her words carried truth that none of them could deny. The carvings, the handprint, the glowing map, all pointed to one fact. Whoever had built this city had known about humans long before they arrived here. The team exchanged uneasy glances. Questions filled their minds. How could beings from another world know of humans? Why would they carve a human hand into their stone gate? Myra looked at each of them in turn. This is only the beginning. The city holds answers. We must keep going. The glowing map above slowly faded, leaving the chamber dim once more. The crystal still pulsed softly, like the steady beat of a heart. The desert above lay quiet, hiding the entrance once again. But beneath the sands, the city had awakened. And it was watching the humans who had come at last. The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of the crystal. The faint light it gave off painted the explorers' faces with shades of blue. Myra stood closest, her eyes fixed on the glowing pillar. She felt as if the city itself was breathing, slowly waking from a sleep that had lasted longer than memory. Karim shifted uneasily. His voice was steady but low. We should be careful. We do not know what this light means. Myra nodded but did not step back. You are right, Karim. But the city wants us here. The handprint on the gate proves it. Leanne crouched at the edge of the chamber, sketching the glowing lines in his notebook. His hand moved quickly, afraid the star patterns might vanish. These are not random designs. They are directions, like roads in the sky. It is as if someone wanted to show us the way. Tomasz studied the map more carefully. Look at these clusters, he said, pointing. I recognize some of them from our charts. But others are unknown. Whoever built this city knew stars that we have never mapped. The weight of his words settled over the group. It meant the builders had knowledge beyond anything humans had discovered. As they spoke, the crystal suddenly pulsed brighter. The ground beneath their feet vibrated, and the sound of stone grinding against stone echoed through the chamber. The team froze. From the far wall, a doorway began to open. Dust and sand fell as the stone slid aside, revealing a passage beyond. Karim raised his lantern. It wants us to go further. Myra felt her chest tighten with excitement and fear. She motioned for the others to follow. Together, they stepped into the passage. The walls of the corridor shimmered faintly, as though painted with minerals that caught the lantern light. Carvings ran along both sides, showing scenes of figures standing beneath stars, reaching upward with open hands. Some of the figures looked strikingly human. Leanne stopped to stare at one of the carvings. This is impossible. These shapes, these faces, they look like us. Tomasz touched the wall, tracing one of the carved figures. Not just similar. They are human. Myra studied the carving carefully. The figure was tall, with the same form and features as any person from Earth. Yet this carving had been made on a world countless light years away. Her mind raced. It means they knew us. Long before we reached the stars, they already knew we existed. Kareem frowned. How could that be? Humans only left Earth a few centuries ago. No one answered. The mystery hung in the air like a heavy weight. The corridor led them into a vast hall. It was larger than any chamber they had seen before, stretching far beyond the glow of their lanterns. Rows of towering pillars supported a high ceiling carved with the same star patterns. At the far end of the hall, a massive structure rose from the floor. It looked like a throne, but instead of a seat, it held a great sphere of glass filled with swirling light. The explorers approached slowly. The sphere shifted and glowed, colors swirling like a living storm. As Myra stepped closer, the light inside the sphere calmed and shaped itself into an image. It was Earth. The team gasped. The blue oceans, the green lands, the familiar shape of the planet, it was unmistakable. The hall grew utterly silent as they stared at the image. Myra's voice trembled but was clear. They knew our world. They watched us. The image of Earth faded, replaced by countless other worlds. Some looked barren, others alive with forests or oceans. It was a library of planets, all held inside the sphere. Tomash whispered, "This is knowledge gathered over thousands of years. A record of worlds." The sphere shifted again, and the explorers saw something new. A group of tall figures appeared, not solid but made of light. They stood in a circle, their shapes graceful and unfamiliar, yet their posture was peaceful. They raised their hands as though offering something. Then the image faded. Lian's notebook slipped from his hand. "They were leaving us a message," he said. "They wanted humans to find this place." Myra's heart pounded. She stepped back and looked around the hall. The carvings, the map of stars, the sphere of worlds, everything pointed to one truth. This city had not been built by chance. It was made for humans. Kareem broke the silence. "If they left this for us, then what do they expect us to do with it?" Myra looked at the glowing sphere once more. The light inside shifted gently, almost like a heartbeat. Her voice was steady. "They expect us to learn. To continue what they could not." The team stood together, feeling the weight of the discovery. Above the desert, the sands remained silent and empty, hiding the secret from the world. But deep beneath, the city had awakened. It had shown its first gift, and it was only the beginning. The great hall was still glowing faintly when Myra and her team stood before the sphere of light. The image of Earth had vanished, but the memory of it lingered in their minds like a flame that would not go out. No one spoke for several moments. Each person was trying to understand what they had just seen. Suddenly, the sphere pulsed once, and the hall filled with a soft humming sound. From the space around the sphere, beams of light extended outward. Slowly, shapes began to form. At first they looked like mist, drifting and uncertain, but soon they grew clearer. Figures of light appeared, tall and graceful, their bodies shining like glass filled with stars. Kareem's hand tightened on the handle of his lantern. "What are they?" he whispered. "They are not alive," Myra said calmly, though her heart raced. "They are memories." The glowing figures moved with slow grace, forming a circle around the sphere. Their faces were indistinct, but their posture was calm, welcoming, not threatening. One of them raised an arm, and suddenly the hall was filled with voices. They were not sharp or frightening. They sounded like music, words flowing in a rhythm the humans could not understand, yet the meaning touched their minds. Lian clutched his notebook, eyes wide. I can feel it. Not in my ears but in my thoughts. They are speaking to us. The light figure closest to Myra turned, and though it had no eyes, she felt its gaze rest on her. A voice entered her mind, clear and strong, yet gentle. You have come, children of Earth. We have waited. Myra's breath caught. She looked back at her team. Their faces told her they had heard it too. The figure continued, its form glowing brighter. We are the guardians of memory. We are echoes of those who built this city. Long ago, our people walked among the stars. We searched for a race with spirit, with strength, with the will to endure. We found you. Tomasz stepped forward, his voice shaking. You knew humans before we even left our world. How is that possible? The figure answered without words, sending images into their minds. They saw visions of ancient ships sailing through the dark of space, crossing galaxies. They saw strange worlds, creatures unlike anything known, and at last they saw Earth as it was in ages past. Small fires lit in the darkness, humans gathering in groups, fragile but determined. The figures of light stood at a distance, watching, learning, and then departing. Myra whispered, they saw us when we were still beginning. The guardians spoke again. We could not guide you directly. To shape your path would weaken it. But we believed you carried something rare, something that could survive where others could not. So we left behind a place of learning. This city. It would wake only when you were ready. Karim frowned, his voice low. Why us? What makes humans different? The figure nearest him responded with another vision. This time the explorers saw other alien races, tall and strong, but rigid, unable to change. They saw brilliant creatures of thought, but fragile, breaking under hardship. And then they saw humans again, weak in body compared to many, yet standing together, adapting, never surrendering to storm or hunger or fear. The voices echoed as one. You are not the strongest. You are not the oldest. But you endure. You learn. You rise. The hall fell silent again, and the glowing figures waited. Myra stepped forward. If you left this for us, then what must we do now? The figures turned toward one another, and the sphere of light pulsed brighter. A new doorway opened at the side of the hall, tall and shadowed. The guardians spoke once more. Beyond this path lies the chamber of trials. To hold our knowledge, you must prove yourselves. Not with power, but with the spirit that marks your kind. Only then will the city give its gift. The light figures slowly faded, one by one, until only the glowing sphere remained. The silence of the hall returned, heavy and deep. Lian's voice broke the stillness. Trials. They want to test us. Myra turned toward the doorway. Shadows stretched from its frame like dark fingers. She felt a weight press on her chest, not of fear but of responsibility. We have come this far, she said firmly. We cannot turn back now. Whatever waits inside, we face it together. The others nodded, though their faces showed unease. Karim tightened the straps on his pack. Tomasz checked the lantern's oil. Lian tucked his notebook into his coat as if it could protect him. Step by step, they moved toward the doorway. The stone beneath their feet grew colder, and the air itself seemed thicker. When they crossed the threshold, the lantern light flickered, as though reluctant to shine. Behind them, the hall grew dark once more. The sphere's glow dimmed, but its steady hum remained, like a heartbeat echoing in the distance. The explorers walked into the unknown, carrying only their courage and their questions. The city had awakened, and now it would judge the humans who had come to claim its secrets. The passage grew darker as Myra and her team moved forward. Their lanterns threw small circles of light against the stone walls, but the shadows pressed close on every side. The air was cooler here, and the silence felt heavy, as if the city itself was holding its breath. After a long walk, the corridor widened into a great chamber. The explorers stopped at the entrance, their eyes widening. The room was vast, the ceiling high and carved with the same star patterns they had seen before. Yet the floor was different. It was divided into wide squares, each glowing faintly with a pale light. Some squares shone brighter, while others were dim, and a few were completely dark. At the far end of the chamber stood a door made of shining metal. It was tall and smooth, without a handle. Above it glowed a single symbol shaped like a star. Leanne whispered, "That must be the way forward. But look at the floor. It is some kind of test." Myra studied the glowing squares carefully. She stepped closer and touched one with the tip of her boot. The square held firm, but another dim square beside it sank slightly, then returned to its place. She pulled back quickly. Tomasz rubbed his chin. "It is like a puzzle. Some squares are safe, some are not. We must find the right path to cross." Karim frowned at the floor. "If we choose wrong, the city may not be so forgiving." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the trial before them. Then Myra lifted her lantern higher. "We did not come this far to turn back. We will face this together. Step by step, we will find the way." Leanne opened his notebook and began to sketch the pattern of squares. "We can test them one at a time," he said. "That way we will not waste steps." Myra nodded. She pressed her foot firmly on one of the brighter squares. It held steady. She looked back at the others. "This one is safe." One by one, they followed her, marking the glowing tiles that supported their weight. Slowly they crossed, moving carefully, never rushing. Each time a tile shifted or sank, they marked it as dangerous. The path was not straight, but with patience and teamwork they began to trace a safe route. As they moved, the chamber itself seemed to respond. The star carvings above them glowed faintly, echoing the light of the safe tiles. Tomasz was the first to notice. "Look up," he said. "The stars are showing the pattern. The ceiling is guiding us." They paused and studied the ceiling. The constellations above matched the layout of the tiles below. The glowing stars marked the safe path across the floor. With this knowledge, their progress became faster. At last, Myra stepped onto the final glowing square. The rest of the team followed, their hearts pounding with relief. The great metal door before them shone brighter, as if rewarding their success. With a deep sound, it slid open. The explorers entered the next chamber. This room was smaller and round, its walls covered with carvings of hands reaching out to one another. At the center stood a pedestal holding a crystal bowl filled with water so clear it reflected their faces like a mirror. Karim tilted his head. "Another trial." Myra stepped closer. The water rippled, though no wind touched it. Suddenly, the bowl glowed and projected images into the air. The explorers saw visions of themselves arguing, doubting, turning against one another. The images looked sharp and painful, showing weakness and mistrust. Leanne gasped. "It is showing us what could happen if we fail." The images shifted again. Now they saw themselves working together, lifting each other when one stumbled, sharing strength. The vision was warm and bright. The guardians' voices filled the chamber, calm and steady. The path is not walked by one. It is walked by many. Alone, you will fall. Together, you will rise. This is the heart of your kind. The water in the bowl stilled, then turned to light. It flowed upward like a stream, filling the chamber with brightness. The carvings on the walls glowed, and the door on the other side opened silently. Myra felt a rush of understanding. The trials were not about strength or knowledge alone. They were about trust, cooperation, and the spirit of humans to stand together even when tested. The team stepped through the new doorway. They found themselves in a tall corridor that sloped downward. The air grew colder, and a faint hum echoed from deep within the city. It sounded like the beating of a heart, steady and strong. Tomasz walked beside Myra. If these are only the first trials, what lies ahead will be greater. Myra's eyes shone with determination. Then we will face it, as we have faced everything. Together. The team walked forward, their steps firm. Behind them, the chambers dimmed, returning to silence. Ahead, the city waited, ready to test them further and reveal its deepest secrets. The corridor sloped downward for what felt like hours. Myra and her team walked carefully, their lanterns casting tall shadows along the smooth stone walls. The air grew cooler and heavier. Every step felt like a step deeper into history, a step closer to answers they had dreamed of for years. At last, they reached a massive chamber. Unlike the previous rooms, this one seemed alive. Light streamed from the walls in soft waves, as though the stone itself were breathing. In the center of the room stood a platform carved from white crystal. On it rested objects that shimmered faintly, scrolls made of a material like glass, small devices of metal and crystal, and maps that glowed with constellations of distant worlds. Liane stepped forward, eyes wide. This is knowledge. All of it preserved. Myra nodded slowly, feeling awe and respect. These were left for us. The builders trusted humans to find it, to understand it, and to use it. Karim picked up one of the crystal scrolls carefully. As he touched it, symbols appeared in the air above, forming words the explorers could read. The scroll told stories of a race that had traveled across galaxies, searching for intelligent life. They had observed humans from afar and recognized qualities that no other species possessed: curiosity, resilience, creativity, and a spirit that could survive hardship. They watched us for centuries, Tomasz whispered. Even before we reached the stars. A soft hum filled the chamber, and the walls shimmered, displaying images of the builders' civilizations. Cities of crystal and light floated in space. Machines and beings worked together in harmony, creating wonders beyond imagination. Then the images shifted to show failure: entire worlds destroyed because the inhabitants could not endure. Liane pointed to the images. They wanted humans to succeed where others failed. Myra approached the platform and placed her hands on a glowing map. Lines of light traced paths between worlds, some known to humans, others completely unknown. The map expanded, showing resources, habitable planets, and routes through the stars. This is more than knowledge, she said. It is a guide, a path for humanity to grow. Karim looked around, his voice filled with wonder. All of this was hidden beneath the desert, waiting for us. But why here? Why not leave it on one of their worlds? Myra thought for a moment. Because they wanted it to awaken at the right time. They did not want to influence us too early. They wanted humans to rise on our own, to earn the right to carry their legacy. Tomasz studied one of the small devices on the platform. It glowed softly when he touched it. It seems like technology, but it is different from anything we know. It could help us heal, communicate, or even travel in ways we have not imagined. Leanne moved closer to a crystal tablet. Look here. There are instructions, not just for using this technology, but for understanding it. They wanted us to learn, not just take. Myra nodded. This is the gift. They trusted us with knowledge, with guidance, and with responsibility. They believed in humans, in what we can do when we work together. The chamber pulsed gently, and the images on the walls formed a final message. Figures of the builders reached out with hands open, offering something unseen. The message was clear. They had left everything behind because they believed humans could continue their work, explore the stars, and preserve life in ways others could not. Kareem's voice was quiet, almost reverent. We are not just explorers now. We are heirs of their legacy. Myra's chest swelled with pride and a sense of duty. And we must honor it. This city, these gifts, they are a challenge and a responsibility. The builders left us tools, but it is up to humanity to use them wisely. Leanne looked around the chamber again, amazed. All this was waiting beneath the desert sands. The city was never lost. It was hidden for the right time, for the right people. Myra stepped back from the platform, looking at her team. We have proven ourselves in the trials. We have reached the heart of the city. Now we must take what we have learned and carry it forward. This is only the beginning. The chamber seemed to respond to her words. Light flowed across the walls in gentle waves, highlighting new passages that had been hidden before. It was as if the city itself was opening to them, ready to reveal more secrets when humans were prepared to find them. The team gathered together in the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of history and the promise of the future. Outside, the desert remained quiet and endless, but beneath its sands, humanity had discovered a legacy that would change the course of their kind forever. Myra looked at her team, her eyes shining with determination. We must go back and share this with our world. Humanity has a chance to rise, to explore, and to carry forward the work of those who came before us. We cannot fail. The team nodded in agreement, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that humans were not ordinary. They had been chosen, observed, and trusted. The lost city had revealed its greatest secret. Humanity had a purpose among the stars, and it was up to them to honor it. The explorers emerged from the hidden city beneath the desert sands as the first rays of the sun lit the horizon. The desert stretched endlessly, golden and silent, but they no longer saw it as empty or harsh. It had been a guardian, keeping the city safe until humans were ready. Myra looked back once, imagining the glowing halls, the crystal pillars, and the knowledge waiting deep beneath the stones. Kareem exhaled deeply. I never thought I would see anything like that in my life, he said. It was more than a city. It was a world inside a world. Leanne held his notebook close. Everything we saw, everything we learned, it is more than history. It is a guide for our future. Tomasz adjusted his pack, scanning the desert. We have to get this back to Earth. The world needs to know. Humanity has a chance to rise like never before. Myra nodded. We have been tested and we have succeeded. The city trusted us. Now it is our turn to honor that trust. The journey back to their ship was slower than the march to the city. Every step carried the weight of the discovery and the responsibility it brought. The sand shifted under their boots, but this time it felt less like an enemy and more like a witness to history. Each dune seemed to hold the memory of the builders, waiting silently as humans carried their message forward. When they reached the ship, Myra took one last look at the desert. She imagined the halls of the city glowing with light, the crystal pillars pulsing softly like the heartbeat of the past. She felt a connection not just to the builders, but to her own kind. Humans were small in the universe, yet they had qualities no other species had: resilience, creativity, and the ability to endure. The ship lifted off smoothly, the engines humming as it rose above the desert. Below them, the city faded from view, hidden once more beneath the endless sands. But the knowledge and the legacy they carried would change everything. On the journey back to Earth, the team worked together to record everything they had seen. Leanne organized sketches and notes of the carvings, maps, and symbols. Tomasz studied the star charts and the paths between worlds. Karim carefully examined the crystal devices, noting their function and potential use. Myra oversaw it all, her mind already planning how to share their discoveries with the rest of humanity. Each night, as the stars glimmered outside the ship, they thought of the builders. They imagined the guardians of memory, watching from the past, waiting for humans to awaken and prove themselves. The city beneath the desert had not only tested them, it had taught them. They had learned that the path forward was not just about knowledge or technology, but about trust, cooperation, and the courage to face the unknown. Finally, Earth came into view. The blue oceans and green lands welcomed them like an old friend. The team felt a mix of relief and excitement. They carried more than just evidence of a lost city, they carried proof that humans were capable of greatness in ways the universe had already recognized. When they landed, scientists, leaders, and explorers gathered to hear their story. Myra stepped forward, holding the crystal scrolls and star maps. She spoke with calm authority. "We have discovered a city beneath the sands, a city that holds the knowledge of an ancient civilization. They observed humans long before we reached the stars. They left this place for us because they believed in our potential." The crowd listened in silence, awed and inspired. They asked questions, but Myra answered simply and clearly. The discoveries were remarkable, but she emphasized that the greatest gift was the lesson: humans could endure, adapt, and rise above challenges, no matter how great. In the following months, the knowledge from the lost city was shared with scholars, engineers, and explorers. The crystal devices taught new ways to generate energy and heal illness. The star maps guided humans to distant worlds, some of which were habitable and ready for exploration. Yet above all, people remembered the lesson of the city, that cooperation, courage, and creativity were humanity's most powerful tools. Myra, Karim, Leanne, and Tomasz often gathered in quiet moments to reflect. They felt proud, but also humble. The builders had trusted them, and humans had honored that trust. The city beneath the desert had changed everything, not by force, but by showing what humans could achieve when they worked together and believed in themselves. As the sun set over Earth, Myra looked at the horizon and smiled. She imagined the deserts on distant worlds, the hidden cities yet to be discovered, and the endless possibilities that awaited humans in the stars. The journey that began in silence beneath the sands had led to a new dawn for all of humanity. The future was bright, and it belonged to those willing to rise.